Good evening, everyone. Hello. I hope I am actually on the stream. I hope it's actually all working. We've had a bit of a panic attack late towards the start of this stream, but I am here, and hopefully everyone else is here, and hopefully I'm not just sat here talking to myself in a server full of people. Either way, welcome to ACC 1.8. I'm not on the screen just yet, but there's a very good reason for that, and there's a very good reason that you're just looking at a static picture, or video rather, of Barcelona. We are here tonight for the ACC 1.8 preview event, and of course, what that means is that I will be participating in two races here tonight at two different circuits. The first race is going to be a very short sprint race here today. It's going to be 20 minutes long, and it is going to take place at... We are at Brands Hatch for the very first of two races here tonight. This is the short sprint race, and the second race is going to happen at Barcelona, which is why you could see Barcelona just a bit earlier. But yeah, so we're here. And, well, it's a bit cloudy out, and we have a lot of things to get into. I've been told what I am and am not allowed to talk about, so we'll get into that very, very soon. But before we get into that... Hello! I'm on camera again for the first time in almost a year. The last time was on British GT, and, well, here we are. And, as you can tell, we're in the brand new BMW. I don't think it was anyone's surprise what most people were going to be running here today. But here we are. Not in a Lamborghini, not in a Ferrari, but we are definitely in the new car for ACC Update 1.8. We have a lot to talk about. Also some things can't really talk about, so won't talk about those. But first, more than anything, how are you guys doing this evening? And I guess let's start things off as I just prepare to go around and do some practice laps. Throw some questions in the chat. What do you want to know about? And I will answer as best as I can, because there are some things I can't talk about because they're going to be in the keynote tomorrow. But I can definitely talk about a lot of different things at the moment. So I guess fire away with the questions, and we'll see where it lands us, basically, and we'll see where it goes. But I'm going to jump out on track, so, and hopefully everything sounds okay. I did test the audio earlier today, but audio always seems to sound different on my machine to what it sounds on YouTube, so we'll go with it as we can. And yeah, so welcome to ACC 1.8. Now, something you may or may have not noticed is, compared to the last time I did one of these streams, is that I'm not running on absolute Papega graphics anymore. And there's a very good reason for that. Dlss has officially arrived to ACC, and it's good. Dan Suzuki has some of the hard facts on some of his testing that he's been doing. Jardia has been doing some testing as well. I have been doing a bit of my own testing with the triple screens, and of course with single screen, sorry, not single player, for, you know, just to see how it compares broadcasting wise and how the game compares to 1.7 after the live stream of the Porsche Cup yesterday. And I can tell you that a lot of things feel very different. DLSS is great. For my triples, it has yielded about a 30 to 40% increase in frame rate. So before, was running about 80 frames, I think it was, on very low settings. When I first tried the DLSS update, can easily push to about 120 or up to 130. Obviously that was down on low settings. I'm now currently running the game at about 70 frames per second average, but pretty much all the details are cranked up to high now, and a couple of them on Epic as well, which is something that before probably would have murdered my PC. So those are some things to get started with and get out of the way. Is that the DLSS update, it is great. There'll be more information about it in the keynote tomorrow. Can't really go into too many specifics about the performance of DLSS because I haven't tested it as much as, say, Dan Suzuki has, who is also streaming at the moment. He'll probably be talking a lot more about the DLSS, I get the feeling, because he knows a lot more about that. But yeah, so that's the big one out of the way. The second one is, of course, the M4 GT3. It feels good. A lot of us in the preview Discord think this is going to be a fairly popular car. It feels good to drive. It doesn't feel anything like the M6 does. It's a very different car in that sense. So you're going to get a very different experience driving this car compared to the BMW M6. But what I can tell you is this car is a lot more enjoyable to drive than the BMW M6 was. And that's going to be something that I think a lot of people will probably relate to as well, that this car has... It is quite a big shock to the system. It's not like the jump, for example, between the Merc Evo and the non-Evo, or the Ferrari and the Ferrari Evo. It is a completely different car. And some of the strengths that it had on some circuits don't exist anymore. And by proxy, some of the weaknesses it had also don't exist anymore. So there's a few interesting things to look into, and for obviously everyone to test. And the other big thing is, of course, we have a lot of physics changes to go over. I won't really delve too deep into them because I'm not master of physics by any means, and it's probably a bit pointless me talking too much about the physics because a lot of it is stuff that I don't entirely understand. What I can convey is what I feel driving the car compared to ACC 1.7, and what I can tell you is, oh boy, it's different, and we'll get into that in just a few minutes. But what I will do now is I'll return to the pit lane, and I'll have a little bit of a look through the questions that people have put down here. I'm having to read chat off my phone. I don't have an extra monitor to put chat on, so I am having to read it off the phone. But here we go. Tom with how much does the IRL new steering wheel cost? Absolutely fantastic. Tom, any custom liveries available on it? You're all in the same livery. There are custom livery templates for the BMW M4 GT3, but for the live stream here tonight, we have all been asked to show up in the official livery to show off the car. So that's why we're all essentially in the same livery, and stuff like that. How... Follow with how is DLSS for stewarding? Don't know. Next question. And looking a bit further down. Also, to reiterate on a point that someone mentioned earlier, there is both DLSS and Fidelity Super Resolution, I think it's called. The other one, which is not DLSS, there is both. And obviously that is great for people that don't have cars that support DLSS. Because it means that they can essentially get the benefits of kind of what DLSS does. It's not quite the same. There are differences between them. We had a bit of a lengthy chat about it. I think it was 2 days ago. There was a bit of a lengthy chat about the differences between DLSS and Fidelity, and how it all changes. But it's great. There's both options available if you have an RTX card, and if you don't, then you can use Fidelity and kind of tweak it to however you want. And Fidelity is actually a lot more customizable in how much it scales the resolution back and how sharp it is as well. So you might actually find that you prefer Fidelity over DLSS. I personally prefer DLSS because it's just click one button and it's go. but Fidelity has a lot more customization to it. You might end up enjoying that a lot more. Tom just saying, looks like the tyres took a bit longer to come up to pressure. That's a very big point, and that will come into the physics conversation. Yes, a lot has changed. There is no new tyre update, so we're not running on a new tyre model per se. But what we are running on is a completely new physics, not really a new physics engine, but a big new physics revamp. And that physics revamp has essentially changed how a lot of things work. Brake ducts, you won't be running them anywhere near as low as you used to. So, you know, if you were on brake ducts 2 or 2, for example, you're probably going to want to open them up a bit more now because that's going to punish the tyres. It's way easier to overdrive the car. All of the cars feel more rewarding to drive if you're careful with your inputs. So the more you kind of throw a car around the track, the worse it's going to perform, and it is definitely going to be harder to drive across the course of a stint. So it rewards kind of more careful and kind of calculated inputs rather to just, hey, let's throw it around the track and let TC and ABS deal with all the problems. So that's definitely something that you'll have to look out for when you get your hands on the update tomorrow, is that you'll have to be a bit more careful with how you handle the car now. The car can definitely snap back at you. You have to be more careful with the brakes, especially on lower ABS settings, because they are way more likely to lock up now, is something that I have found and have had to kind of get used to, because I'm just used to slamming on the brakes and ABS takes care of everything. So it's definitely something to look out for, and the way you drive the cars is going to change. Personally, I love the changes. I think they're great. A couple of people have some different opinions on them, but overall, the cars feel way more rewarding to drive when you get it right. When you get it wrong, the cars definitely bite back a lot more than they used to, and it's definitely something to keep in mind. And some other things that have kind of tweaked is that they have a bit more freedom with the BOP for cars that are no longer in the GT World Challenge Europe series. So things like the Nissan and the Honda, for example, Kunos will have a bit more freedom with how they tweak the BOP for those particular cars, because they're no longer restricted by using the real-world BOP that they had to use courtesy of SRO. So there is a lot more customization on Kunos' end as to how they can tweak cars. So you might see cars like the Nissan or the Honda, which have been notoriously terrible at some circuits or most circuits. Those might become more competitive over the next couple of months as Kunos begin to dial them in a bit more, and as they begin to basically stop them from getting too far out of reach at circuits in which they probably were too far out of reach before. Maybe thinking Honda Bathurst might not be as powerful as it was before, but it's probably still going to be one of the top cars because they don't want to remove, something that they've already done. In that, Connor's saying, I thought Fidelity FX option made loads of ghosting issues. I personally haven't found that, but I haven't tested it as much as some other people have. There may be ghosting issues. ACC kind of has a weird bit of a ghosting issue anyway, without DLSS or Fidelity on it anyway. If you have motion blur on, you'll be very familiar with what that ghosting issue is. But as far as it goes for everything else, I don't know. We'll have to see when it comes out, and obviously I will see what I can find out as we go along as well. And just looking through everything else, just trying to get more in, just see if I can get all the questions done. How screwed are you for the Thursday championship, Tom? I would say if you put in a decent few hours of practice on Wednesday, because I know you said you can't practice on Thursday until the race. If you put a good couple of hours in tomorrow, I think you'll be fine. I think if you jump straight into it without practicing the changes, you're going to find it really difficult. So it's going to be interesting. Mikhail asking Lambo info. I did actually ask about the Lamborghini to Gergo, and he said to me that there are some negative traits of particular cars that are nowhere near as severe as they were before with the new physics update. So I'm hoping things like the Lambo snap, which anyone who's driven the Lambo should be fairly familiar with, won't be as bad as they were before. I'm also hoping that things like the Lambo's really poor pace over the mountain section of Bathurst is going to be slightly better now. So yeah, it's swings and roundabouts. There's going to be things changing, and stuff like that. Basically, to put it how James Parker said, it's basically everything is reset to zero now. A lot of the way you drove the car before probably doesn't matter as much anymore, and you're going to have to try and find new ways around new problems. But one thing that, I have seen some people concerned about, and some people have asked me about, settings for setups are not necessarily going to translate over from 1.7 to 1.8. Setups may need to be tweaked to get them back to where they were before, because as far as I understand, a few things in the setup process have been edited to avoid certain things happening before that Kunos obviously don't want happening again. So anyway, that's basically all the questions I can see. I obviously am not the greatest with setups, so I'm just going to be running the default aggressive, and I'm just going to be going out there and doing some laps. I can already see that there's 123s out there, which is absolutely terrifying, and well, we're just going to have to see how it goes. It's quite warm out there actually, 26 ambient, 31 track, but let's go out again and actually put in a representative lap time and not the horror show of a lap time I did earlier whilst talking about just a fraction of the millions of changes that we have for 1.8. And it is a lot of changes. The changelog is fairly long, and I think anyone who enjoys reading through the changelog is going to have a lot of fun tomorrow when they have a good read for it. You're also probably going to enjoy the keynote tomorrow, which is definitely worth watching. If you didn't have it planned to watch it because you were going to tune in tonight and find out everything you needed to know, there's going to be things that won't be spoken about tonight that will be in the keynote that are probably worth listening to. So if I were you, I'd watch the keynote tomorrow, because it's going to be interesting. Fabs with the bump stops. You know it, Fabs. Fabs is an OG follower of the Ryan Gill philosophy of setups, which is just tweak the bump stops that will do absolutely nothing, and then just go with it, you know? That's how my setup processes used to work. I'm just gonna let McLaren through. That's Matt Samuel, just ahead in the McLaren. Obviously he's an access as well, and there's a lot of very familiar people, as you can probably expect. Obviously Harris is here, Gergo is here, the devs are here. But then we do have Jardier, David Corral, James Parker, Nulla is here as well. I think Denise Pope from SimGrid is here. So there's quite a few new people, and Matt Samuel doing a nice drift as I unfortunately imitate him. But the car feels great, the M4. It feels really nice to drive actually, especially compared to the M6, and the Sim in general just feels a lot nicer to drive. It just feels more alive than it did before. I'm probably not the greatest reference for, hey, what did the game feel like, because I mean, I don't race as much as a lot of other people do, but I can tell you from what I've tested, the sim feels a lot nicer. The cars feel a lot more alive. The cars feel lighter as well, which is quite interesting. You can really feel the difference in weight in the transitions in the corners. A lot of the cars don't feel anywhere near as heavy as they were before. And I think that is something to do with the BOP changes, so yeah, some other things for you guys to keep an eye out on, and the test tomorrow, I suppose, and see what you think. But it is going to be good when it drops tomorrow, and it's going to really, I think it's really going to, you know, reset the structure for a lot of the midfield, and especially the pro class as well, because some drivers are going to adapt to these changes a lot quicker than others, and it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks until I think everyone is back to where they used to be with the changes. And also, I probably should have shifted down to second for that corner. But any thoughts on what has been discussed so far? I mean, obviously we've talked a bit about DLSS performance, but don't want to go into too much to that because I just haven't really tested it. I've had my mind in other places. Obviously the physics and the way some of the cars are now changing, so things like the BOP, and of course the new changes to the physics as well, obviously with the cars being very different now to drive. So if there's anything that I've mentioned throughout answering those questions and just talking about things, if there's anything you're unsure on, or if there's anything you'd like me to expand on, if I can, because like I said, I don't fully understand everything, but I do understand most of it enough to explain what exactly has changed. So, if you do have any further questions, do drop them down and I'll try and get to them when I can. And something you'll notice here is that I am overdriving the car a little, and it's very noticeable with the wheel, the way it keeps trying to slide through some of the corners. That's something I'm going to have to get used to, because I'm very used to overdriving the car because I'm not a very good driver. So it's this is a learning experience for me as well, and I've had a few days already to play around with the preview. Not as much time to actually test driving as I would have liked, unlike with the British GT preview, but it has definitely been an eye-opener just being able to test it and, you know, kind of try and get comfortable with some of the changes before the preview event, but we'll have to see where we end up. I'm competing with Mr. Git tonight for the Not Last challenge, so it will be interesting to see where we land up with that one. And again, as I've said, I won't really be able to read chat too much. I mean, especially maybe more at Barcelona because of the long straight, but definitely not here at Brands Hatch because I have it on my phone. And it's very small on my phone, so obviously it's not too easy to read. But I do appreciate everyone who's here tonight. And of course, this isn't what we usually do on RCI. But, you know, it's one of those things, we got invited to do it, and it's worth sharing with you guys, even if I can't provide as much information as, say, people like Nils probably can regarding physics and setup changes, or as much as Jardier can probably show you the differences in his pace between 1.7 and 1.8, because he's always racing, so it's pretty easy to see the changes in pace immediately. But I hope you're all enjoying it, and it is definitely quite a bit of fun to play around with the cars now. The game feels a lot more enjoyable to just drive now, I think, is one of my bigger takeaway points. And this car in particular, the BMW, feels really good to drive. gorgeous Lamborghini behind us as well, by the way. That'll be one of the official liveries from the 2021 season, and as I'm aware, the only orange Lambo is Grasson's car, I think. Pretty sure it's Grasson's car that's orange. It used to be green and orange, but I'm pretty sure they're just orange now. What a lovely back end to that car. We do have someone in a Nissan as well here today, which is always nice to see. I think some of the cars like the Honda and the Nissan will become a bit more relevant in the bot going forwards now. I think they'll definitely be cars that you see a bit more on the grid now because of the fact that they're going to try and bring them a bit more up to pace on the circuits that they're definitely struggling on. So it'll be interesting to see if there's a bit of a resurgence in particular car picks. And obviously no one knows at the moment which car will be the new meta, or whatever you want to call it. Obviously we went through a period in time where it was the Merc, and then the Porsche, and then the Aston Martin, and obviously now it's a bit up in the air whether it's Aston Martin or Ferrari, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the general ranking of cars changes. And I am overheating my front left, so I probably need to open the ducts a bit more. Or just drive better. That might also be the solution. Perhaps. I haven't driven Brands Hatch in a very long time as well, so I'm not too familiar. I'm definitely looking forward to Barcelona a lot more because I'm a lot more familiar with that track. But yeah, it's definitely, it's interesting. I don't know what too much to talk about at the moment because, like I said, I'm not the most well-informed person around on any specific topics. It's just the general realm of knowledge that I am aware of. Oh dear, that was bad. And that was just a touch of grass. Really, I want to see the leaderboard. Well, I mean, there you go. Not very good. James Parker doesn't have a lap yet, so I'm beating someone at least. But definitely off pace at the moment. We'll have to see if I can rein that in. I'm a better commentator than a driver. Definitely so, which is why most of the time I I find myself in the commentary box on Monday nights rather than the racetrack. Yeah, and is DLSS on? Yes, I do have DLSS on at the moment. I'm running everything on high and averaging about 60 to 70 at the moment, which is pretty nice because it's a metric that on high, on triples, I would never have been able to hit previously, so it's pretty good. Nate saying, tell me that Sebring is coming. I don't know how to break this to you, Nate. But it's not coming. So, I'm sorry, Nate. But Sebring is not in the 1.8 update. And Nathan shouting, or Grim, sorry, shouting Nords. Nords is also not coming. Drink. And it was Grasser. Was I correct in that one? Did someone answer that question? I don't know if anyone answered that question. I can't find it anymore. Soft Bill said it's RCR Orange. Oh, there, Tom said it's Grasser. Okay, I was correct. Thank goodness I can get my Lambos correct, at the very least. For the next 4 days, everyone is a Beamer owner. It's going to be like that. It was like that with the new Merc and the new Ferrari. Everyone was driving them because they were the new thing. And it's going to be the same with the BMW. Everyone's going to want to drive it. I did want to drive the BMW tonight, which is why I'm driving it, but I also didn't want to because I was fully aware that everyone's going to be driving it tonight. So it's just one of those things where if I didn't drive it, everyone was going to ask, why aren't you driving the new BMW? And if you do drive it, then everyone's like, why is everyone in the new BMW? So it's one of those things where you can't win. I just wanted to drive the new car because I've had the chance to practice it over the last couple of days. I haven't practiced it too much because I have tested a couple of the other cars just to see how they felt, and they do feel very different. But I wanted to race this one tonight, so I'm racing this one, and there is obviously quite a few people in the BMW here tonight. There's obviously Nils, as per usual, drives for G2, so he's going to be in the BMW. Jardia's, of course, in it. James Parker is in it. Mr. Gitt's in it. Denise Pope, Amasante, and then, of course, myself and Steve Worrell from Race Department as well, so yeah. And so plenty of people in the BMW tonight, and of course Race Department, who are one of our partners, they are streaming on Twitch as well, so if you want to go see Steve Worrell's perspective of everything, you can go and see his perspective of everything as well, and make sure to give them a like if you haven't already, because obviously Race Department, one of our partners, so M4 Cup when? Don't know about that. Do not know about that. Gonna just bump some pressures up a bit. See if we can try and get those a bit closer to where we want them to be. Bring those up a bit. Actually, bring the fuel load a bit down, because we probably won't be using anywhere near that much fuel for a 20-minute race. I have qualifying coming up in 9 minutes, well, I'm pretty sure we all know where I'm going to be in qualifying, so let's probably just focus a bit more on the race at the moment. BMW trophy when the M2 comes out, too. Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about the BMW M2. It's not in this update, but there's no information in the preview event Discord about the M2, so I can't answer any questions about that because I quite literally don't know anything about it. So I was just as surprised as everyone else was yesterday, not yesterday, the day before, when BMW announced it on their live stream. saw Fabs earlier saying they were watching Billy Octane clips. I'm just hoping I don't do a Billy Octane tonight where I look over at the chat and then somehow end up in the wall. That would be a very Ryan Gill thing to do. I do have a tendency to find walls, which is not a great thing to have on your mind when you've got Bathurst coming up in less than 2 weeks. See if we can follow Davide a bit here. Definitely have to be a lot more careful with the tyres now, because they do take a bit longer than just a lap, really, to get up to pressure now. And the temperature of the tyres as well, despite the fact that they've got tyre warmers on, they're not really anywhere near an optimal range after one lap, so it's an interesting thing to deal with now. It kind of feels like the GT4s, but nowhere near as... It's like a midway between what it was before and what the GT4s are, so the tyres are slightly warmed up when you come out of the pit lane, but they're nowhere near as comfortable as they used to be. The FEMA Masters. I mean, my idea is to kind of get rid of the Masters Cups because they haven't really been doing so well, but I don't know, maybe we'll see. If we were going to do that though, I kind of wish this car had not come out at the moment, because we currently got the Porsche Cup going on, and we also have a winter break coming up in a few weeks' time, so not ideal to host a new championship with the car, but either way, it is what it is, but it is nice to have a new bit of content to end out the year for people to grind on over the winter season. And of course the new update as well, which I think by the time we all come back in January, people are going to be right back up to speed where they were before, so it's going to be quite interesting. Oh no, it's me. Lost a lot of time there. Oh, we've got Mr. Peril right behind us, so I'll move out of the way for him. Too aggressive on that. Oh, Davide's back. Hello. Anything changed about wet driving? Yes. So we haven't really got into that. And there's a reason I hadn't really touched that topic, Mikhail. And you'll see that a bit later on. Because we had a practice server up for the Barcelona race, and it wasn't dry. So, there's a couple of things to look out for regarding that. And I won't touch on them right now because they are supposed to be... well, not really supposed to be, but I'll touch on them when we get to Barcelona because it will be much more relevant. Oh god, no, I've just locked up. I mean, we're not last at the moment, 19th or 20th, so apparently on target to achieve the not last award. Entry on that corner. Oh no. Not by 4 pence. 25.395 on about 16 litres. Oof. Qualifying is going to be interesting. Do we have Lambo and rain still not a good idea? Probably. Probably. I was only 2 tenths off Amazante, so okay, I'm not too disheartened with myself. Optimum PSI range stayed the same. I believe it has. There's been no mention that we should have to do anything different regarding PSI in that sense, so as far as I'm aware, that should all be the same. So I don't think anything regarding PSI has changed, Billy. Is he still angry about the drive-thru game at Barcelona? Let's not get into that. I don't want Ronaldo chasing me down the pit lane again. Or the paddock, rather. And, wet race confirmed. Favorite phrases are not ideal, and it is what it is. Pretty much. So I do have... Not ideal is probably one of my biggest sayings, but yeah. I don't have the most comprehensive dictionary. I'm more used to when I used to speak Spanish and you could just kind of fill everything with just filler words. And it was a lot easier to have conversations. In English, you can't really do that because there aren't many filler words you can use. But anyway, we'll go out for qualifying, we'll see what we can do. Hopefully not qualify last. Gave us 15 minutes, fortunately. I just wanted to wait for most people to actually get out so that I wouldn't have anyone directly in front of me. That doesn't seem to have been the case, or at least there wouldn't be any backing up at the end of the lap, but it doesn't look like people are doing that anyway, so... Thank you very much. I do also apologise that I can't show the UI, because, unfortunately with my triples and the way ACC works with borderless windowed mode, I can't actually get the UI onto the main monitor. And full screen mode doesn't seem to work with NVIDIA control panels, so it is what it is. And I unfortunately can't show the UI. There hasn't really been any changes to the UI though, so it's not like you're missing anything, to be honest. The only thing that you can't see is my terrible inputs, and you're probably better off not being able to see those, so we'll leave that as it is. First there, that was a bad idea. I just see someone say rap god driver, excuse me. Where's that come from all of a sudden? I fully appreciate, by the way, that there's probably people watching at the moment that are like, my word, how bad are you at driving? And I understand that. Well, actually, I don't understand that because I've never been on the other side of that point. But I get that, like, for some people that are obviously much quicker than I am, probably feels a bit frustrating just to see someone like me just paper around a track like this. But the thing is, I'm not entirely sure in what sense I can explain how the game feels different from a pro or esports perspective, because I can't really sympathise with that. What I can explain, as a plebeian, is what the game feels like for mere mortals, and how it's changed. And that's kind of what I'm going to try and, should we say, show off tonight. to the best of my ability, is how some of the more normal people that aren't about 0.8 of a second quicker per sector, you know, what it kind of means for the more average driver, should we say, rather than some of the high-end guys. Like, we do have a lot of high-end guys in here today, but we also have some people that are a bit more normal, like myself and Mr. Gill. You know, just to show it off for you guys, and whilst we're here, I mean, if you're enjoying the stream, you know, do hit the like button and the subscribe button. It does we do appreciate it. It does help out RCI, you know. And tune into some of our streams. We have the next stream on Thursday, in fact, the GT4 Team Endurance Championship, and that's going to be fun to watch the next round, because it's going to be the first race in RCI on the 1.8 update. So yeah, going to be interesting to see how all the GT4 drivers adapt to it with not too much time after the update has come out. I've locked up again. Halfway to qualifying. Let's see if we can maybe just tweak the pressures a bit. Could have got into the funny course. One more lap. Oh no. there we go. That's annoying. Ugh. I don't know what was going on at turn 1, but anyway. So what's qualifying? Oof. 5/10 off Davide. Man, Steve has found some pace all of a sudden. Any changes to shared memory? Not that I'm aware of. I did read through the changelog on the day we got the preview, and I didn't see anything about shared memory. So as far as I am aware, it's not changed in any sense. Study that dictionary to expend. Unbelievable. Oh, so that's where Rad got right. Oh, it's Tom. Of course it was Tom. Also, I'm not sure if anyone did answer before if the volume at the stream is okay, like the balance of everything, because I remember asking that question and then not looking for the answer. So do let me know if the sound is a bit weird. I've lost to Steve. I'm taking you offline. Well, it's been a good run, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching the stream. Mike Jones has decided time is up. But no, yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I'm struggling more than I thought I would with the changes, for sure. I think some other people are definitely struggling a bit more. So it's interesting, you know, and I think once you guys get your hands on it tomorrow, I don't know when the update comes out tomorrow, by the way. I know it's tomorrow. I don't know if it's morning European time or evening. But yeah, when you get your hands on the update, it's definitely going to be interesting. And I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it. I think there will be some people that don't enjoy it because something that they've been familiar with for a very long time now is all of a sudden going to change. And some people don't like that, but I think they've done these changes to bring it much further in line with what the real world cars are, and from what I know from previous opinions of GT3 drivers is that it's pretty accurate already. But I think this is just Kunos taking another step towards more accurate, you know, a more accurate way of simulating the GT3s than they ever could before. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be fun. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy playing around with it. And like I said, it's going to be interesting on Thursday for the GT4 Championship, the team championship we have here, because everyone's going to be a bit all over the place, I feel, because everything is going to feel very, very different. But it is very true what James Parker said earlier when we were in the briefing. He said it feels like everything has been reset to zero, and a lot of people have to relearn things that they were very much used to. So you definitely do need to put some time in to get familiar with how the game feels now. But I personally think it's a good thing. I'm slow, and I definitely feel slower with this update. But the cars just feel more enjoyable to drive because they feel a bit more alive. So, I mean, I personally have never been bothered about my pace, but in terms of drivability, I think the game feels much better than it did before. So it's definitely interesting. More changes than are worth mentioning here. So much has changed in 12 months. It has. I mean, so much has changed since early access. Really, I mean, I remember in early access when the curbs just used to be almost magnetic in a way, and it was it was very, very unusual. But you know, the sim has come a very, very long way since it first came out. It has come a long way in the last year. But, you know, I think the fact that they've gone through so many changes to the physics is kind of a good sign, because I think it shows that they are committed to continue supporting ACC, despite some of the beliefs that people have had that they might not want to continue supporting ACC. So, I think that is, you know, quite good to see, is the fact that, you know, they are still supporting the game in full by the looks of it, despite the rumors of the development of a new sim. And let me just do 2.3, I guess. So I'm just calculating fuel quickly. I think 40 liters should be fine. We'll roll with that.
30 seconds.
I think we will also just roll with whatever we have here. Will changes come into effect immediately in RCI leagues? Yes, because we run whatever the defaults are pretty much for a lot of things. So yes, you know, things like the BOP and obviously everything comes into effect immediately. So yeah, it's definitely something that everyone in RCI is going to have to get familiar with, and I kind of get the feeling that it's going to be the same for all the leagues. Like, I don't see why SimGrid wouldn't, you know, start using the latest BOP changes, even though I know they have their own kind of like custom bomb. You know, I don't see any reason as to why they wouldn't, you know, adapt to that, and it's going to be the same for places like ODL, CHSR, PCDC, OVRC, ACR, AOR. You know, it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a big reshuffle of the pecking order, I feel, not just in the cars but in drivers as well, because it depends on how quickly people adapt to it and how they adapt to it. So we'll have to see how all that plays out, but exciting times. It's exciting times. And Tom mentioned that it'll feel like a whole new game. Aris did kind of touch on that in the Discord. He said that with the amount of changes they've done, they probably could have sold it as a paid update, but obviously they didn't want to, so they haven't, which is always great, I feel, because like I said, they could have just packaged it as a 2021 update as a DLC and then just thrown it out there, but instead they decided to release it as just a general update. And obviously regarding 2021, all the official 2021 liveries are in the game. That's what everyone is using tonight. They're using liveries from the 2021 season. So, you know, all of the official liveries from this year are now in the game. There were a few in the game already that had been patched in, but now all of them are officially in the game and ready. So it is great to have all the liveries back in now for the 2021 season. Anyway, 20 minutes ahead of us. I'm going to try and not murder the entire field down towards turn 1. And I'm also going to try and not finish last. So we'll have to see how that goes. Probably won't talk much in the next 20 minutes. So if you want to just enjoy the sounds of the BMW whilst I don't talk, then this is probably that part of the stream for you. But 20 minutes ahead, let's see what we can do. probably shouldn't have tried to go for that on the inside. Yeah, on your head. Oh, that looks spooky. You can see what I meant earlier. If you overdrive the car just a bit, it will snap back on you. God, that 10 minutes felt like a long time. Now I've got Matt Samuel right behind me. Ah, shit. I didn't brake hard enough for that. Fuck. Oh dear. Don't know if he braked earlier, if I braked too late, but still annoying. Pressures are a bit all over the place. Apparently that's a warning. Just ACC things. Darren is up. Oh, Dabby just killed someone as well. Well, let's see if we can defend from Davide for the last couple laps. On the inside. Pressure loss everywhere at the moment. Oh, Davide! No! Oh. I wanted to try and overtake him properly, but oh well. Oh, can't see. Oh well, 15. Not the way I would have wanted 15th though, because I definitely think it was my bad for punting the Audi around. Oh well, not too bad though. Didn't do terrible, didn't do as bad as I thought I would, but definitely feels interesting. Did a bit too much grass cutting. So, that's something to improve on, at least around Brands Hatch, where I'm not particularly great anyway, so... Whew. God, I have to do another hour race as well? I'm going to be knackered by the end of this night. It turned to pit lane. It tells you the winner, if that apparently wasn't evident enough already. Gergo killed Matt Samuel, apparently. Let's see. I will go back and watch that now in shame. Because I need to know, for my own clarity's sake. I feel like that's my bad. I feel like that's my fault. So say that's not gonna... Which camera am I looking for? There we go. Where does he break? Just a bit before that. About here. Where do I break? Hang on, what can I see as a reference? That. Yeah, I probably braked about 5 or 6 meters too late. Well, that's not ideal. that's definitely not ideal. To blame netcode. I don't think I could blame netcode on that one then, unfortunately. But yeah, it was interesting. It was definitely interesting to actually do a race in that, because obviously up until now I've just mostly been doing hot laps, so it's pretty interesting to actually get a racing in it. I definitely do need to brush up on the grass cutting skills, or refine them, because definitely did a bit too much grass cutting and lost a lot of pressure in the tires, which probably didn't help. But not last, and I'll take that. And we'll have to see what happens. We do have another race coming up though at Barcelona, and that server is going to be up in a minute, I believe. So that is going to be a 60-minute race. So we're going to have qualifying and the race, and I don't know if there's going to be any mandatory stops or not, because that hasn't been detailed. So we'll have to see. But we'll see how the next race goes. Definitely enjoying it though. The update feels really, really good, and it's something that I'm sure you guys will. I'm sure it's something that you guys will definitely enjoy once it arrives. I'm just waiting for the server to come up at the moment, so that's why we're on the static screen. But yeah, I know Mikhail wanted me to touch on wet weather. So yes, wet weather has changed. The way the way the weather works in general has changed quite a bit. So you know, it's interesting in the sense, because the way the weather has worked now is that the cycles, at least the way the cycles work, is not going to be the same. So when you had weather cycles in 1.7, they would typically... I had this conversation with Wolf Fatushka yesterday, funny enough. When you have a weather cycle, it will kind of just go between the maximum and the minimum all the time. There's no like in-between spot that you can get. So if the maximum is heavy rain and the minimum is completely dry, you won't typically get light rain, or it's incredibly difficult to get light rain, because it will just ping back and forth between the minimums when it transitions weather cycles. That has completely changed now. you can get flash storms. So you could just have heavy rain hit immediately for 10 minutes and then it goes away. That is something that is entirely possible now with the new weather model. And of course, with that, it's definitely going to be a bit different as to how you approach wet weather racing, and I don't know the full extent of how things like wet lines have changed and all that, but I do gather that they have probably changed quite a bit in the way that you go about handling wet weather racing now that the things like flash storms, and it can go from heavy to light rain to dry to back to heavy immediately. So there's a lot of different things that can happen with the weather now. So it has definitely changed. I don't know how much the driving specifically has changed. I guess we're going to find out because I'm assuming that the server's going to be wet. So it's going to be interesting. And lo and behold, I have just joined the server and it is wet. So yeah. This is going to be interesting because I have not driven. Actually, it's wet and going to dry, so that's going to be interesting. Let's switch back to this menu, or slide, or whatever, scene. I have not done personal streaming for a very long time, so do forgive me for using all the wrong terminology. Is the update free? Yes, it is completely free of charge. And it is coming out tomorrow. Considering all the massive physics changes, they probably could have charged money for it, but like Aris said, they didn't want to, and they're not going to charge money for it, so it's free. Awesome. Yeah, well, plenty of rain. We don't have too much time to practice as well, so this is going to be a bit interesting. But let's go out just on the wet preset. Turn those down a tiny bit. And let's see what we can go out and do. We'll fill up for 100 litres. And see where we go. And I'm going to hope, because I haven't tested any wet weather driving yet, but I'm going to just hope that I can adapt to this a lot quicker than I did the Brands Hatch race. So let's have a look then. So it is only light rain at the moment, and it is going to dry up in about 10 minutes time. So it's not going to be too much. Tom asking how big was the update. It was 1.3 gigabytes that we had to download for the preview event. So it's not too big, but yeah, 1.3 gig is what we had to download today. Something also that you might notice with the rain is the rain looks slightly different from the outside cameras. They have actually changed what things look like in terms of the graphical quality of things like rain. And there is also you might have noticed it in the Brands Hatch race, and you might also notice it now. There has been an update to the lighting engine that they used as well, so everything looks a bit more colourful, a bit more alive. Everything looked a bit stale sometimes before, so things definitely look like they've got a lot more colour to them now, which I can appreciate, because every time I take screenshots in ACC I have to run them through a filter on Photoshop to make them actually look like the grass is green. So I can appreciate that, and my word, I am just going off everywhere. But yeah, so they have updated some things with the lighting as well, and the rain texture has been updated, and it looks better in replays now. And heavy rain looks absolutely terrifying. It looks a lot worse than it used to, so you're definitely going to know what heavy rain looks like when you see it. and it's not going to be something that you're going to forget the look of very soon either, because it's quite drastic now, the change between light, medium, and heavy conditions. And one thing I'm finding out immediately here, trying the wet conditions for the very first time, is that, wow, my braking references, or old braking references at least, for Barcelona are completely out of whack now. So, that's interesting. Goodness me, this car feels difficult to turn in there. Not sure if that's just the wet conditions or not though. And my PSI is way too high, so we'll have to turn that down. I seem to slide more on the curbs now. I mean, this is only light rain, but the curbs just feel a bit like ice in some corners at least, so maybe something to look out for, or maybe it's just my inability to drive, but it definitely feels very different in the rain now. There almost feels like there's more control over the car, but at the same time, less control when things start to get a bit hairy. So as long as the car is still planted on the ground, the amount of control you have over the car seems to be greater, but when it gets a bit out of shape, like when you touch a curb that you probably shouldn't, it definitely seems like your ability to control the car is a lot lessened than it was previously. So wet weather racing, make a mistake, could be a lot more punishing now than it was before. So something to keep an eye out, and obviously something to keep in mind when you set up for races as well, that could have changing conditions as to how you're going to tackle that. Get a lap at least in practice done by the looks of it. 153.1. Not sure how good that is. And the wet tyres are starting to overheat now, so I think it's probably about time we give the dries a go just to see what they're like. Let's have a look. It is damp out there now. Let's jump onto the aggressive and just see how it goes. Back down a bit. About 100 litres back in the car as we did before. Just up the TC. See how that goes. All seems a bit sketchy at the moment. Any AI changes? Not that I'm aware of, but there are some pretty big changes to how single player works. I don't remember them saying we can't talk about that, but I'm going to stay on the safe side because I know it's going to be in the keynote tomorrow. So I won't talk about the single player changes today because I'm not 100% sure what you can and cannot talk about. Mike is correct. Wow, and I've just gone straight. Mike is correct, you can do full multi-class now, but there's a lot more about the way that works that also affects multiplayer. There's a big change as to how all the categories of racing are managed now by ACC. So there's some of those things I don't know if I can talk about because it wasn't mentioned in the briefing, and they are going to be in the keynote tomorrow, so I just won't talk about them. But yes, there are changes to single player, but I do not know if any of those apply to the AI, and yeah, it is still a bit too wet out here for slicks, apparently. There are no changes to career mode in the changelog, so I would assume not. But again, I also think that, from Kunos's perspective at least, and this isn't what they said, this is just my opinion, I don't think there's a big enough market for Kunos to properly expand on the career mode of ACC like how the F1 game is, because personally they don't have the staff ability to do that, and they also, there's probably not enough of a, shall we say, monetary incentive for them to make a fully integrated career mode, because it's just, there isn't going to be enough people that would buy ACC just for that, so I don't think there'll be any changes to career mode. Not in this update. I don't know about the next update, but definitely nothing for this update for career mode. And yeah, there are some graphical changes. They've improved the lighting engine, which I did talk about just earlier. The lighting engine is very obvious now, how different it is, and also they have changed the rain textures, so the rain actually looks a lot better now. And the difference between light rain and medium rain and heavy rain is very obvious now, whereas before it was not so obvious, at least from the outside cameras. And of course there is DLSS and Fidelity specs as well, so plenty of stuff on the graphical side of things. But, people out on dries or on wets? James is out on dries, but then again that shouldn't surprise me. Although Gergo looks like he's out on wets. Giardia's out on dries, Matt's out on dries. Interesting. But yeah, there are some updates with lighting and that. So the game does look a lot better on the higher end stuff. If you have a 1080 Ti, DLSS won't be available for you, but you will be able to use Fidelity, which is the counterpart to DLSS. It's like the non-RTX one. So you won't be able to use DLSS unless you have a DLSS card, which are the 2000 and 3000 series, but you can use Fidelity, which is the version that works with AMD cards and NVIDIA cards that aren't RTX enabled. And you can see that in the settings here. So I have a 2080 Super, so I have DLSS options here, but I also have access to Fidelity Super Resolution as well. But if you don't have an RTX card, you'll only have access to these options here. As for what DLSS and Fidelity FX do, I mean, if I were to explain it, I would be here probably beyond when the race ends. But to put it in a short way, it scales down the resolution of the game on the back end and rescales it back up on the front end to give you a more clear picture of the game whilst using less of your GPU memory and such. So, and fidelity is basically the same thing, but not for RTX cards, basically. It works in a slightly different way, and I mentioned this earlier, with fidelity you can customize, or not really customize, but tune what the graphics look like a lot more than you can with DLSS, because DLSS is locked to the ultra performance, the performance, balanced, and quality modes, whereas fidelity has a percentage slider of sharpness, so you can tweak that from 0 to 100% however you choose, and it has a couple of different options for quality as well. So fidelity is a lot more customizable, and I think a lot more people will be using that just because it's more customizable. But if you want the slap bang, it just works feature, you can just use the DLSS and it will work perfectly fine, assuming you have an RTX enabled card. Anyway, I am going to jump out and do some qualifying, and we'll see where we end up. But yeah, if you want a very in-depth explanation of how DLSS works, Google is your friend on that, and I'm sure you can find plenty of articles online about how DLSS and Fidelity Super Resolution work. It's way beyond my level of understanding, so for the life of me, I couldn't explain it to you exactly how it works. I can just give you the TLDR of it takes lower resolution image on the back end and puts out a nicer image on the front end, and that uses less memory from your GPU, so of course it means you can get higher frame rates. So it's a good thing, and I'm pretty sure everyone will be running Fidelity and or DLSS, whichever, pretty much all the time, unless you're doing a broadcast, in which you probably don't want it on, because obviously with the broadcast you probably just want to run everything on high or ultra, and then just leave it as it is. As long as you can hit 60 frames, no one's going to care about that. So for broadcasters, DLSS is not really going to be an issue, but for drivers, which is the majority of the community, it's going to be massive, and it is really, really good. Say I'm running the game on high graphics at the moment, on triple 1440p screens, which is something I've never been able to do before in ACC, and it's very, very nice. And I look forward to seeing how much I can push the graphical capabilities of this game now with triples when I eventually decide to order a 3080 or a 3070, because my 2080 Super is on its last legs, so probably need to get a new card sooner rather than later. Good thing Cyber Monday is just around the corner. Anyway, let's see what we can do in qualifying. I'm much more familiar with Barcelona than I am Brands Hatch, so hopefully we won't be as poor in qualifying this time around. And it does seem we only have 19 people this time instead of 20, so someone is unfortunately not here for race 2. Oh no, I've got Angry Deb himself behind me. Steve exploring the additional layout of Barcelona that we're not using here today. And there is no updates to the tracks, by the way, in terms of layouts. Obviously, Barcelona, the corner on the end of the back straight, which is a hairpin, it has been changed into a left-hand sweeper. The track hasn't been rescanned, so there is no update to Barcelona. The same way that there's no update to Zandvoort either. So, as far as tracks go, there is no updates to talk about. You can definitely feel that the track is still greasy, but it's not quite dry yet. I think it's a lot more noticeable than it was previously, so... track feels a lot more intimidating when it's not dry. Well, P12 is the best we'll be able to do. That's a lot better than Brands, though. 1.9 off the pace. Oof. Definitely didn't have ideal pressures, though, that's for sure, so probably want to turn those down, or some of them up. There we go. As far as that goes, that should be good. Don't really want to touch much on the setup because I obviously am not that well versed in it. Probably should have been on brakes 1 actually for qualifying, but oh well. Put them on for the race. And we were doing 2.7. That was a 146. So about 33 to 34 laps. 4. About 93 litres, so if I just throw 100 in there, we should be fine. Hope races in thunderstorm. Well, I mean, it's going to start dry, but it definitely isn't going to stay dry, by the looks of it. Getting a sample of that new weather model already, and I think my chat has just disappeared. There it is. So right, so we're starting 12th. Interesting. And it's going to rain, medium rain, in about 30 minutes. So we are going to be changing tyres at some point in this race, so if we're changing tyres, probably don't want to run max fuel. So let's put 70 litres in, so it'll be a bit lighter at the start. Then I have no idea what to do for wet pressures, so I'm just going to set them as wet, and we go as they are. So we shall see how all this pans out. But here we go then. Final race of the evening. And we are here at Barcelona. Turn the engine on, that would help. Hopefully we can have a better race than the first one where I don't absolutely murder someone. I don't want to do that again. And hopefully we are a bit closer to the rest of the pack, because we did definitely drop off towards the end after the little incident, so let's see where we are. Couple people going a bit slow on the formation lap. Something to note that I at least found out was that warming up the tyres, so getting heat and getting the tyres to the optimum PSI, takes longer now. But also the tyres seem to lose pressure much slower at the same time. So it seems to be kind of a knock-on effect, where it takes more time to get them up to pressure, but at the same time, they do lose pressure slower. So that is something that is at least nice. So when you're on the grid waiting, I suppose, to go to the formation lap, you know, your tyres won't lose so much pressure on the grid anymore, which is quite a good thing, because obviously everyone kind of just stays in the setup menu until it's about 10 seconds away from the grid forming up. So some of those things have unfortunately will be a lot easier to manage now because of some of the physics changes, but we'll have to see how rain works in its fullest in this race. We've got it arriving in about 25 to 30 minutes time, so yeah, let's see what we can do. We're starting 12, 18 people in the race. Let's try and not murder someone this race, and see if we can get a top 10 to finish out the night in a good way. No. Too aggressive on the throttle. Fortunately, it shouldn't be too much in the way of damage. In fact, I don't think I've got any damage actually. Ooh, Aris. Wait to see Aris pull away on the straight. Did I take a full tank of fuel? No, I didn't, because I know that I'm going to have to change onto wet tyres at some point this race, because it's going to go to medium rain, so I have taken about 3/4 of a tank, and I'm going to fill up the rest at the pit stop, so I'm a bit lighter at the start of the race. Ah, shit. Well, that was expected at some point. And I got a track limit warning for that, apparently. Nice. Nice. No flat spots though, fortunately. But that's what happens if you overdrive the car now, a lot more than it used to. The car will bite back, and for someone like me, that's going to be a big learning curve, because overdriving the car is the only thing I actually ever did beforehand, so being a lot more delicate with the car is going to be a hard learning experience for myself, and probably for quite a few other people, I think. No idea what that was. Struggling on that corner a lot. Alright. It's been a murder, I assume. Yeah, the warning system apparently does seem to still be a bit weird. Not quite sure what Aris is doing. See if we can go get the Bentley. Whoa! Where did Aris just go? No, he's still there. I wonder if that was just my ping. because someone's got to drive clear to track limits. Oof. Oh, it's Steve. Eh. PSIs aren't terrible, but they're not great either. Descended to D1. Maybe. This car does feel really good on the brakes. I don't know, it feels like it can brake later than some of the other cars can. It's a bit weird, but it does feel nice. No! Paris! Wow, that rain has come a lot earlier than I thought it would. Jesus. It said half an hour. Haven't even been 15 minutes. That's interesting. Ooh, Harris. Yeah, Aritz is hunting me. Ooh. I was getting a bit slidey there. Oh, no. Yeah, conditions are starting to get slippery now. The tires are also starting to cool down. They're not green anymore now. Well, they are green still, but they're going towards that cyan blue colour. So it's probably about time we come in. I do have wets ready. Oh my word. Oh dear. Oh my word, this car just won't turn. Oh no. Trying to get into the bloody pit lane and Aritz is still going. Oh well, at least we stopped correctly for the entry. I won't repair the damage because it doesn't feel significant enough. Can we hit our marks first time? I can't even see them. Yes, perfect. At least I can do something right in this race. Oh dear. So, it is going to rain, and it looks like it's just going to get increasingly heavier for the rest of the race, so that's going to be interesting. Three, two, one. Ooh. I'm not sure if that's legal, but as far as I know, we don't have any stewarding for this race, so... We'll have to see how the wets go. They're probably going to be under pressure, like anything, but there's not much I can do about that. Haven't really had the chance to test the wet pressures. I think I switched probably a lap too late. Yeah, I need to brake a bit earlier there. Yeah, I think maybe either I switched on the correct lap or just a lap too late. There's a lot of people in the pit lane when I came in, so... see where we are to Aris. I have no idea which map is the wet map for the BMW, so yeah. I don't know what map to switch it to. It's got 8. So I don't know what the wet map is. We gained a lot on Aris, so yeah, we definitely came in at the right time. Mr. Git 5.3 seconds up the road. I wonder if we can catch him before the end. Does anyone in chat know what the wet map was for the BMW M6? Because I don't. I assume it would be the same on the M4, but... definitely pulled away from the Bentley a lot, so seems like I'm at least going quicker than him in the wet. Steve on the grass, yeah. Only one place down where we started so far, so that's not terrible considering the spin. Oh, no. Come on. And that was a warning for track limits, apparently, as well. Track limits still seem a bit weird, but I suppose that's just ACC things. Okay. The braking zone for that has all of a sudden changed a lot. It has moved up to medium rain now. your audio's in the pits. I wonder what happened to him. Surely he wasn't still out on tries. There's no way. Still can't get the brakings in right for the hairpin in the wet. Soon enough for that, apparently. That's the third track limit warning, apparently. Oh dear. Let's not get a drive-through, please. Ah. Well, we went almost 39 minutes without punting someone, so it's better than Brands, I guess, but not good. Ah dear, I've got a lot of work to do before Bathurst, it would seem. It's Bathurst is going to be a yikes if I'm driving like this. Oh, there we go, that's the drive-thru. Well, I think, unfortunately with that though, I think my inability to drive in the wet in the new update has been very well proven. And considering I'm about to be a lap down, yikes. I think that was Nils that just went by. Well, I think, unfortunately, probably going to call it for me. I definitely did a lot more practice with this. That is evident. I obviously had access 4 days, I think it was 4 days. But I obviously haven't practiced that much because other stuff, but also, yeah. There's going to be a lot to learn with the new update. I've definitely learnt that I need to get a lot better. And I think, along with that, I think a lot of other people are also aware that it's going to be a bit more difficult than it was previously to actually get properly tuned up and working with everything. But I've also just noticed that apparently Gergo's car is in the pit lane as well. But yeah, I think that's going to call it for me on the stream here tonight. I'm absolutely knackered, and in a preview event, I'm probably not going to spend the next 17 minutes just driving around on my own. So I think that's probably where I'm going to call it for tonight. Obviously, there's loads of other people streaming their POVs at the moment, so if you want to go check out their POVs for the rest of the race, then obviously, you know, go and do that, and, you know, see what they're up to and how they're taking it, what their opinions are. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of videos put out over the next few days by quite a few people about all the changes. And of course, there's the keynote tomorrow to look forward to. But I'm going to head off because I'm absolutely shattered. and I don't know, I've done my best to kind of explain things about the update. There are some things we can't talk about. Giardio's just cut himself a drive-through. Yikes. But yeah, it's a good update all in all. The cars definitely feel a lot more alive, and I think a lot more people will like that. And oh wow, all of a sudden 3 people have drive-throughs. Well, that's rather interesting. At least I won't be alone in the drive-through club today. So yeah, plenty to look forward to tomorrow when the update releases, and of course I think a lot of the races over the next couple of weeks are going to be very, very interesting. I think the order is going to be very jumbled up, but we'll have to see, of course, how all of that goes. In the meantime, that's it from me for today. I'm going to sign off for the night. Like, comment, subscribe, all the usual stuff if you are new around here. This has not been one of the usual streams we have. This is very out there for us, so you know, do keep that in mind. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled broadcasts from Thursday. And, of course, we have the GT4 Team Championship on Thursday, the Friday GT3 Championship on Friday. Don't know why I blanked on that for a second. And then Night Owl on Saturday, as per usual. Monday will also return with the Porsche Cup, so look forward to that as well. But from me, that's going to be the rest of it for this evening. I hope you have enjoyed the stream, even if it's been very different. And look forward to the update tomorrow. It's going to be really cool, and yeah, I have a lot of practice to do. So I will speak to you guys next time on Monday on the live stream. But look forward to Thursday, and we should have some pretty interesting action. So from me, thank you very much, and from all our partners and sponsors, you can see at the bottom as well. Thank you very much, and well, enjoy the rest of your evening, and look forward to tomorrow.